Ron DeSantis, the Republican governor of Florida and floundering presidential candidate in the Republican primary, took a surprisingly difficult question from conservative interviewer Megyn Kelly, a question that I was desperate for somebody to ask him publicly. And so before we unpack it, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell, and maybe check out my Patreon. I'd appreciate the support. So, not a fan of Megyn Kelly. Now, she, I don't want to say this, was not the worst of the the Fox News pundits during her time at Fox News before she left. I think she had a tenure then on one of the mainstream networks. It was either NBC or CBS or ABC. I can't remember. And since then, she's hosted her own program called The Megyn Kelly Show, and it has just regressed into open, naked right-wing partisanship. And because it's right-wing partisanship, it is less reinforced by the facts and logic and humanity. But she did pose a very difficult question to Ron DeSantis, which I have been thirsty for somebody to ask him this question. And she did. And so I want to unpack it. And it concerns DeSantis's political priorities and his predilection towards using the power of the state, specifically the state of Florida, against his political enemies. So take it away, Megyn.
Much as the base is angry at these woke corporations, and I get it, I know you get it, aren't you doing the very thing to these companies that conservatives are mad at left-wing leaders for doing, using
Yes. Yes, you are.
government to punish citizens for political wrongthink?
No, not at all. So taking Anheuser-Busch, I mean, we're not punishing them. They departed from business practices by indulging in social activism. That has caused a huge problem for their company, and their stock price has gone down. Well, our pension fund in Florida holds Anheuser-Busch InBev stock. So it's actually hurt teachers, it's hurt cops, it hurts firefighters who depend on that pension fund. And so
didn't you support the boycott against them?
No, I did, but that's just as a personal thing. But I mean, we didn't have like the state government, necessarily, putting power about it. But as an American, I said I'm not doing Anheuser-Busch.
Do you hear that stumble? You hear that long pause and that stumble afterwards? Because she has him. She's like, listen, so wait a minute. It's almost like, in a way, obviously not legally, but in a roundabout way, it's kind of entrapment, isn't it? So Anheuser-Busch sends a can of beer to a transgender activist, and you lend your incredibly influential right-wing voice to encouraging boycotts of Anheuser-Busch around the country. You encouraged it. You may not have done it. You may have not sent like a state email for it, but everybody knows you're a very popular, influential, powerful Republican governor of Florida. And you outspokenly supported and encouraged the boycotts. And as a result of that, in part, their stock suffered. And now you're thinking about suing them for some sort of like abrogation of fiduciary duty because they suffered the consequences of a boycott you helped encourage. That's like an arsonist starting a fire and then, I don't know, trying to sue the state or sue somebody for, faulty wiring or the fact that, or trying to collect an insurance check, I guess, after starting the fire in their own home. What? What are you talking about? The double standard is disgusting, right? The irony is thick. And she's right to point it out. Like, you are doing the very thing that conservatives complain that the left does, wielding the power of the state or social media influence to try to leverage powerful entities to, negatively react to socially regressive agenda. When the left does that, you complain, or when the left supposedly does that, you complain. But it's okay for you to wield the power of the state and to also wield your considerable social influence in a way that punishes the left. So it's do as I say, not as I do. Is that how it is? And by the way, how popular is that? I mean, certainly not a conservative sentiment, right? I mean, I thought conservatives were about free market capitalism and the freedom of corporations to do what they want. And yes, that means that if there's a boycott or if there's social pressure and there are fiduciary or financial consequences accordingly, well, that's just the free market at play, baby. That's just how it works. It's capitalism. Why are you trying to punish them for capitalism? You punished them first by organizing the boycott and lending your voice to the boycott, and now you're trying to punish them again. And that's not even getting into, which she does talk about, or Megyn Kelly does talk about in that interview. We're not going to play the clip. She also brings up Disney, and we've talked about Ron DeSantis' war with Disney. You're punishing Disney for criticizing your state action. How is this okay? This is becoming a pattern with you, Ron. But I also want to point this out because CNN actually raised this as well. Ron DeSantis, that agenda, that anti-woke agenda and leveraging the power of the state, that might have some appeal to some aspects of the right wing, but not all of it.
It seems many Republican voters are not fans of Ron DeSantis' so-called war on woke. Only 38% of GOP voters would support a candidate who fights private corporations that promote so-called woke ideology. 52% want a candidate to stay out of what businesses do or do not support.
There you have it. I mean, say what you want, but at least that's a consistent perspective, right? If you're a conservative and you're like, listen, private businesses should be able to do what they want. If that means doing things that support a conservative worldview, that's great. If not, so be it. That's just their right to do so. That's at least a consistent worldview. Ron DeSantis doesn't have a consistent worldview. He doesn't have a principled worldview. He thinks that it's perfectly okay to leverage the power of the state with the bully pulpit of a governorship, or I'd imagine the presidency too, if he were to win, against people and entities that challenge him. And that's pretty fascistic.